Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming out today, and thank you for Councilmember Sawant for hosting us here in City Hall. We need more local officials like you who will stand up for workers because we are just we need to fight. So in this unprecedented meeting, REI employees are coming together from across the nation to demand reliable hours, living wages, and the right to organize without retaliation. My name is Edward Peters. I am a full-time college student from Asheville, North Carolina. During the school year, I work part-time at the REI store in Asheville. I have worked at 2 REI stores in North Carolina, and I have been with the corporate co-op for 1.5 years now. When I first started working at REI, I thought it was amazing. I was a young college student working 2 jobs, and I was also living at home with my parents. That made things a lot easier. Once I moved out and started really working on the sales floor with my fellow coworkers, I heard their stories. I saw the realities of working at REI. And all of my fellow REI employees are really hardworking people. Many of them are parents, some grandparents, most are working multiple jobs. All of them depend on the little money they make at REI to support themselves and their families. And as you can see, the wages they're paying us are failing all of our working class heroes who have families who cannot feed themselves or their children. This is why I've come here today, all the way from the East Coast, to speak out on the behalf of all my coworkers back in North Carolina who cannot risk losing their jobs and cannot risk being unable to feed their children. All of my coworkers back home, they're incredibly brilliant and talented people. Just at REI, I've worked with political scientists, economists, carpenters, teachers, and mathematicians. Many REI employees have fancy college degrees like this and special skills, but they still work part-time for a company that isn't even paying them a living wage. Despite the low wages, we work for REI because we love the co-op and what it claims to stand for. Since many people cannot survive on REI wages, we regularly see great employees leave. If we paid a living wage and gave consistent hours, we could retain knowledgeable and dedicated REI employees. As I continue to connect with current and former REI employees across the nation, I've heard eerily similar stories of low wages and inconsistent hours. At stores across the country, REI employees live in fear every week, wondering if they will get 30 hours or 3 hours. It is impossible for employees to live a stable life when they are unsure if they get enough hours to pay their bills that month. And even if they are lucky enough to get 30 hours, their wages are not high enough to support themselves comfortably. Many of my coworkers work 2 or more jobs just to provide for their families. While watching my coworkers struggle, it frustrates me knowing that REI CEO made over $3 million last year. A single employee is making millions of dollars. Meanwhile, my coworkers are going homeless and struggling to feed their families. It is true that other CEOs make way more money than REI CEO, which is completely ridiculous. And I would be fine with REI paying our CEO millions of dollars to get a great CEO, but they must pay us a living wage if they're going to pay one employee millions of dollars. No person working near full-time hours should worry about feeding their family or having enough gas to get to work. REI workers are forced to make these difficult decisions every day that someone making millions of dollars could never understand. And I'm echoing many of the issues that my coworkers on the West Coast have experienced. These are co-op-wide issues. They are not isolated to any particular store. The issues addressed in our demand letter are systemic within REI, and there must be change. To all my fellow REI employees, we must stand together if we want to make these changes happen. We must continue to organize in the face of retaliation. We must not forget that the work we are doing and the risks that we are taking will improve the lives of thousands of REI employees across the nation. I appreciate all of the REI members and allies who stand with us here today in solidarity. I would ask you to please sign our demand letter to help lift up REI employees across the nation. And I would also like to thank Alpine. This group would not be here today without your dedication, and I know I would not be here today without your dedication. Thank you.